Hello, boys and girls. It's time for another lesson on our vocabulary workshop. Have you ever thought, I wish there was a way to shorten some words we write or use less words when we speak? Well, there is. I'm your teacher, Ms. Shamsuddin, and today we will be learning all about contractions. Now, I know you might be asking, what are contractions? What does this really mean? Let's use our analysis skills to find the meaning. Now, look within the word contractions for a part that is familiar to you. Now, if we look at the word contraction, you might see the word contract. When we hear contract, we know that it means to squeeze together. So we are squeezing two words together. So when we talk about contractions, we are taking two and making it one. And this we refer to as contractions. So a contraction is a shorter word made from two words. The first word, however, when forming contraction, remains the same, but for the second word, some of the letters are taken out. For contractions, we use the apostrophe. Do you know or remember what the apostrophe symbol looks like? There is your demonstration of what the apostrophe looks like. Now we use the apostrophe to fill the space of the missing letters. Let's look at some examples of how we form contractions by taking letters from the second word out of the two words used and replacing them with the apostrophe to form our contraction. Our first two words are she will. Now, for she will, we are going to shorten it and make she'll. For the word will, we shorten it by taking out the WI and replacing it with the apostrophe. We always shorten the word will this way by taking out the WI and replacing it with the apostrophe. Now the new word we have is she'll, and it's the same as she will. Our second example, has not. Has not in its contraction form is pronounced as hasn't. Has not is pronounced as hasn't. Now, how do we come up with the contraction hasn't? We shorten the word not by taking out the O and replacing it with an apostrophe. So here is what it looks like. We have HASN apostrophe T, and that would be pronounced as hasn't, which is the same as has not. And this is how it is formed. For any contraction that we are forming with the word not, we take the O and we replace it with the apostrophe. Our next example, they are. In contraction form, we say there. Here we shorten the word by taking out the A from the R and replacing it with an apostrophe. Again, for any contraction where we use the word R, this is how we shorten that word by taking the A out and replacing it with the apostrophe. So the contraction is there. THEY apostrophe RE. I have. I have, two separate words. In contraction form, we say I've. We shorten the word have by taking out the HA and replacing it with the apostrophe. We always, for any contraction being formed with the word have as the verb, we take the HA out. We would. We would, we say we'd. And This is how we shorten the word wool by taking out WOUL. All that remains is the D. So in contraction form, we have weed. So you have WE apostrophe D. I am. I am in contraction form is pronounced as I'm. I am in contraction form is pronounced as I'm. Here we shorten the word by taking out the A from am. Remember, the first word will remain the same, but we will take a letter or some of the letters from the second word. So in this case, we are taking the A away from the am and we replace it with the apostrophe. So now we have I'm. Any contraction formed with am, we always take the A out and replace it with the apostrophe. He is, he's. In contraction form, he's. We shorten the is by taking out the I and replacing it with the apostrophe. So we get he's. Any contraction being formed with is, we take the I and replace it with the apostrophe. So contractions can be used in our speech and in informal writing. Writing such as notes or if we're writing letters to our friends or a family member. That would be considered informal writing if you remember our lesson on letter writing. We say friendly letters are considered as informal writing. Now, you should be advised that you should try as much as possible to avoid using contractions in formal writings where the original words should be used. For example, use the words do not instead of saying don't. Don't is another form of contraction. Instead of using don't, let's say you're writing a letter to the mayor or the president, to your head teacher, to a business, an application, a letter of excuse. You're writing those as formal forms of writing or very, very important pieces of writing. And you would want them to be very important and very clear. So you try your best not to use contractions in those forms of writing. Instead of using contractions, you will use the two words as they were originally. While there are quite a number of ways contractions are formed, or I should say, where we use different kinds of words to form contractions, the basic forms we use are pronoun and verb contractions. For example, I have. I being the pronoun and have being the verb. This is an example of pronoun-verb contraction. We then have the verb and not contractions. For instance, the words cannot, we say can't. This is the verb and not contractions. And then we have interrogative adverb contractions. Interrogative adverb contractions. Now you would remember that the word interrogative is related to question. So interrogative being a question, the words therefore are implying we are asking a question. So in statements where we have, for example, who is, we can say whose. Who is, you say whose. So here we have the adverb and the verb. Then what is, what's. What is, what's. So whose hat is it? What is, what's the color of the car? So these are some of the basic forms that we use every day in our speech. And as I said, We are free to use them when we are writing informal pieces of text. Now it's time for you to write some contractions on your own. I hope you have your pencil and your book, and this is what we're going to do. As I read the sentence, you look to see the words that are on the line, and all you're going to write in your book is the contraction for those two words. I'll give you the instruction again. I'll read the sentence, then you will simply write the contraction for the two words that are underlined in that sentence. So you can read along as I read for you. Are you ready? Let's go. Number 1. Where is my new book? Where is my new book? Write the contraction for the words where is. Number 2. My brother said he will come tomorrow. My brother said he will come tomorrow. Write the contraction for the words he will. Number 3. They are going to the concert tonight. They are going to the concert tonight. Write the contraction for the words they are. Number 4. We would like to have some pizza. We would like to have some pizza. Write the contraction for the words we would. And number 5. She has not eaten since last night. She has not eaten since last night. Write the contraction for the words has not. Now, I hope that you did them as I read each sentence. It's time for us to check how well you did. For the first one, we had where is. The contraction for where is where's. So the new sentence would read, where's my book? WHERE''S. Did you write that? If you didn't, make a note of it. If you did, very good. Number 2, he will. The contraction for he will is he'll. Remember, for the word will, you drop the WI and replace it with an apostrophe. So your new sentence would read, my brother said he'll come tomorrow. Number 3, they are going to the concert tonight. The contraction for they are, there. Remember, for the word are, you take the A and use the apostrophe. So we have now, they're going to the concert tonight. Number 4, we would. What contraction did you write for we would? Now for the word would, it's one of the words that we take away most of the letters. So we would becomes we'd. We'd like to have some pizza. And the final one, has not. What is the contraction for the words has not? Hasn't. Remember, for the not, you take the O away and you replace it with an apostrophe. So our new sentence would read, she hasn't eaten since last night. So how well did you do on that? I'm sure that you got, if not all, quite a few correct. Now, there are some contractions that we want to be careful with since they have homophones. Now, do you remember what are homophones? Remember, homophones deals with sounds. So there are some contractions that end up with the sound of another word in its original form. Here I have some examples for you. Wheel. Now, wheel is a contraction because we would have joined we and will. But then we have the word wheel. Like if we're talking about the wheel of a car, a bicycle, a bus. So you see, we're having the same sound, but they have different functions altogether, and they're pretty much spelled differently as well. We also have hears. Hears. And hears is the contraction for here is. But if we are using the word hears, I could say that Sam hears the sound of the music. So I'm talking now about someone hearing something. It's not the same, but I am hearing the same pronunciation in these two words. So I have hears as contraction, and I have hears as when we're referring to someone hearing something or sound. So you want to be careful there as well. Then we have what's. Remember, what's in contraction originally was what is. And we have what's that we use when we're talking about voltage or electricity, something of that nature. You talk about the wattage of a bulb, or you say you want a 20 watt bulb or a 30 watt bulb. What is the watts of the bulb? So you hear there again, they're sounding the same, but they're not the same. They're not even spelled the same. So you have to be careful that when you're using these words, so you have to be careful that when you're using these words, if you're using it for contractions, that you use the spelling of the contraction form and you don't use WATTS, which would not be a contraction. The last one I'll share with you, whose. Whose in its original state is who is. And then we have whose, WHOSE. So there you see we have two different spelling as well. So you really want to be careful with these because it sounds simple, but sometimes it can become tricky. So there we had it, boys and girls. I hope you had fun doing that lesson. Now let's do a short recap on what we've learned today. We've learned that a contraction is a shorter word made from two words. In forming contractions, the first word remains the same and some of the letters from the second word are taken out. For those letters that are taken out in the second word, an apostrophe is used to fill the space of those missing letters. And then it's joined and become one. So that's pretty much it for contractions. It was really great to have you for this lesson. Until next time, do all you can to stay safe. I am Isham Shadeen saying goodbye.